Okay, back with 50 and 50 even with Netix and Remenko, and thank you very much for their support in making these. This issue came in on 2 different emails actually, and it's something I've been talking about for a good few years now. This idea of summer scour syndrome in calves, and what is it even? So different questions. One was directly related to it, but I covered again, and one was sort of about another issue that probably sounded a bit like this. So summer scour syndrome, what is it? It's this issue we see with dairy calves at grass. We're seeing more of it. I certainly am seeing more of it year on year. And what might be? And when I talk about summer scour syndrome, I'm talking about calves that are weaned out in grass. Symptoms after turnout can be weeks after, can be a couple of months after turnout, but typically in the weeks after turnout, they start scouring, they start wasting away, they often have ulcers in their mouth, their rumination goes straight out. So what I would often see with these calves, when you go out into the field, their tails will be up because they're scouring, and they won't be ruminating. You watch them, they'll just be standing there. To pick up other issues like pneumonia, the numbers can be smaller batches, can be later weaned calves, it can be groups of calves. So this is what I refer to summer scour syndrome. But you must remember, so this is my time with calving to turn out here. You know, when calves go to grass, there's other things that can be causing it, and common things are common. Remember that. Worms probably later in the season because of the life cycle, but coccidiosis certainly can be a cause for scour and wasting in calves. You typically don't see these ulcerations with coccidiosis, but they're quite common. You'll see nematodirus worm in calves early I've seen that in the past. Where you have very high molybdenum levels, you'll have molybdenosis in calves. That can give similar appearance, blocking up copper. Rumen fluke very rarely, and there has been research done into viruses that may be causing these symptoms. So look, I've talked about this many times before. I have my own very strong opinions on it, I suppose. But I suppose if you are seeing scour and you are trying to rule out some of these common things, don't forget about fecal egg counts. You know, don't treat, try for coccidiosis, treat this, treat that. I think just try and get a diagnosis. But you know, if we're seeing some of these classic symptoms of summer scour syndrome, what could it be if these are other ones ruled out? And I think for me, look, I always say we're feeding the rumen bugs, not the cow. It's about rumen development. If you think of the symptoms we're seeing, to me, they very much match acidosis. You know, scour, wasting, sometimes a bit of the ulceration. People will say the ulceration is not, but my opinion is the ulceration decrease in rumination. And particularly when I've seen these, the response to buffers and fibres is remarkable. Some of them have to come back onto milk if they're gone too far gone, but you know, I just treat the symptoms I've seen and see a response. And all I was ever treating in these cases where I ruled out these other things was acidosis. So why would calves be getting, I suppose, an acidosis type reaction? If you think about, I suppose, a couple of things from calving to weaning strategy is very, very important. Sometimes you'll see it in farms where the later born calves aren't fully weaned and they're turned out to grass. They haven't the fully developed rumen. The other thing is if calves are on a very high starch diet, when they go out to grass, if the concentrate is very high in starch and then they go out into grass, you have a combination effect of high starch and fresh, lush spring grass. That combination can be there. But a lot of times, in the farms where I've seen it, it is particularly better growing grass growing farms. If you think about the rumen development here and the transition, anytime when we go inside to outside, changing diets, the rumen takes a period of time, 2 weeks to adapt. So what's happening here when you go on lush spring grasses, our spring grasses are very high in oils or fats, the conjugated linoleic acids. They're very low in fibre, they can be higher in nitrogen and higher in sugars. And that all, particularly these two, I think these two have an impact on rumen health, on that progression of the rumen. And even when weaning is done well, I've seen it happening, that the rumen is developing, and that's quite a shock. And I think low fibre and oils combined together are very hard on young rumens. So that's what I've done is I've just treated those symptoms of acidosis where I've seen summer scour syndrome. Now some calves need to, so when I see them buffers, fibre, some calves will need to go back into milk and you'll start the thing again. So definitely is an issue. And look, grass is a fantastic cheap feed, we do it really well. But you know, you always have to go, when you stretch physiology out, you've got to understand what's happening here. And this is what I see time and time again. So the options, I suppose, are when I go onto these farms, I think about reviewing weaning. When are you weaning? You know, what feed level are the calves on when they're weaned? Are they turned out? Are they weaned outside? What's happening? You can add fibre or buffer to calves. So calves, if they're on meal, what meal are they on? Continuing that fibre to allow for the fibre. Sometimes you can put a buffer. Maybe batching later calves. So calves that are coming at the end are more susceptible. They can be batched off. Or just if you think about common sense, I suppose, where do the calves go out to? They're not going out to the lush grass. They're maybe going out to tougher or higher covers. Something that's got a bit of higher fibre in it. Again, if I thought about years ago, the calves often went out to the poorer pastures on the land. So just simple things, thinking about what strategy, where the calves go to, and if you are using nitrogen fertilizers, when did the grass get, or when did you put them out, and when did the calves go out in it? So common sense. So my thought for today is, I suppose, look, there's still research ongoing, but to me it's kind of common sense what might be happening, and more common sense is always needed, because they say common sense is not that common.